Today on Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond.
I really stress for people to look for is the quality. And, you'll hear people out there saying, well, you can't eat these vegetables. Well, it may not be the vegetable that's bad for you. It may be the type of seed they used. It may be the way they grew it with chemicals or different types of fertilizer.
You don't need to play it safe.
This was spectacular.
I'm going to be really honest, so I hope you don't mind.
Yeah, that's what we want.
And there will be bumps in the road. There will be twists and turns.
You needed moxie on the floor and volume.
It's the results and the connections and the improvement, the impact we have on other people's life. And that's when life becomes exciting.
Who do you turn to personally to get back on the thriving track?
I was really interested in how the world works.
Thanks for the great introduction.
It was really very simple. I just read part of your bio. Be brief, be bright, be gone.
Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. Today on Thrive Loud, we bring you a woman with a delightful celebration of healthy food. Her passion for sharing her wealth of knowledge is entertaining, enlightening, and oftentimes life-changing. Her presentations, counseling, radio shows, and books. She got a lot of books, by the way, with a lot of awards. You'll learn more about that. She shares her favorite health tips for getting healthier and making healthy eating delicious. She's inspiring, her joy is contagious, and after we connect with her today, you will learn how to celebrate life by living a healthier lifestyle. Thrive Loud listeners, Nancy Addison. Nancy, how are you today?
Hi, I'm doing well and so excited to be on your show.
Well, we are excited to have you as well. This is going to be a ton of fun because it's at the time of the recording, we're recording this right in the beginning of the new year. Everybody's got their own goals and physical challenges they're looking to do, trying to eat right. I've got 4 or 5 work colleagues who are on some kind of cleanse to get them out of the holiday season. And I think it's good that we're kicking off an episode here early on in 2019, talking about the importance of really understanding healthy food and organic food and how to go through with this. And what I would love our listeners to learn, just to rewind a little bit, kind of give how this became the focus of everything that you do. And a lot of the key messaging, I think, we'll have in a back and forth conversation. That sound like a plan, Nancy?
Oh, absolutely. I think I spent half my life ill, starting at the age of 2 with an overdose of penicillin by my pediatrician, which ended up with me being in the hospital and my parents being told I was going to die. And after I had recovered from that, after many blood transfusions, bone marrow tests, things like that, I was a very fragile child with acute anemia. And because of the acute anemia, I craved anything that would give me energy. So I became basically a sugar addict as a child. And back then, my mother was doing everything that she was being directed to do by the medical industry, eating margarine, using things like Crisco, a trans fat that's, considered a vegetable oil, the processed foods, the refined white flours, the things like that. And by the time I was in high school, I was pre-diabetic, and my eye doctor had told me that I was going blind.
Oh, man.
So my mother, was trying to do what she thought was best for me. And by doing that, the doctor told her I should be using synthetic sweeteners, which had just come on the market. And so sugar-free Dr. Pepper became my food of choice. And I still was eating carbohydrates and things like that. And as I went into college, I went and studied at Cordon Bleu in London while I was there. I learned how to cook really delicious food, but from my hindsight now that I've learned so much, I find that a lot of the things that tasted really good back then weren't necessarily good for my health. And by my late 20s, I had very serious carpal tunnel syndrome, so bad that in both my wrists I had to wear those braces. I had serious acid reflux. I was still pre-diabetic. I still had acute anemia, and I had really terrible headaches. I ended up getting married. I had got pregnant fairly quickly and had 2 children 13 months apart. And during this time, I had come from a family in Texas where meat was very much a prominent part of every meal. Barbecue, fried chicken. There was a lard holder on the stove, which was very normal. And so I grew up in kind of a Southern fried Texas barbecue mentality. And as I had watched many of my family members have strokes, and my father had a heart attack while I was in college, and he had recovered from that. But when my son was 1 year old, my father developed cancer. And along the way, we're doing absolutely everything we're being told to do by our doctor. We go regularly. We are, really trying to follow what is recommended. And by the time my second son was born, soon after that, my own personal doctor died of cancer. And then I found out my father had cancer, and he died when my son was 1 year old. And I just had this light bulb moment as I was standing over my son's bed. And my sister had just called me to tell me that my dad had just passed away. I realized he was not going to see his grandchildren grow up. Right. And when he passed away, he was younger than I am at this moment. And I'm 64. And I realized that I wanted to see my grandkids grow up, and I wanted to feel good enough to enjoy that. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing, and it's not working. I haven't, become free of diabetes. I haven't gotten free of the acute anemia. I haven't gotten rid of all these other, acid reflux, the headaches, the carpal tunnel. And I had an art degree, so I'm a potter. I was volunteering at the Lighthouse for the Blind teaching pottery. I'm thinking maybe I'm just overusing my hands, and I like to garden. So maybe I was, gardening too much or just working with the children too much. But I found a new doctor, and I told her, I said, I'm going to try a new program. I'm going to use food as my medicine. I'd like you to just take my blood once a year and tell me where I am, because I really didn't know what kind of journey I was embarking on. I hadn't been trained in nutrition. What I knew was what I'd been told by my medical doctor. And I just decided I was going to research health and nutrition. And she said, well, Nancy, I will love to be a part of this. I will have to admit, I learned nothing about nutrition in medical school. So, I will support you however I can, but, we'll just embark on this together. I basically told my pediatrician the same thing, that I was going to, try to eat healthier. I was going to start switching out ingredients, and I was going to basically try to have the healthiest body and children I possibly could by using natural methods like, healthy types of water and healthy types of food. And it was about this time I picked up a very large article in Life magazine, which was a really great magazine at the time. It's very similar to Time magazine. And there was an in-depth article in there with huge photographs of the new farming methods, the new methods that raised animals in confined buildings with no air, no sunlight, no room for movement. They were giving them hormones to make them fatter faster. And because of the way they were raising them, in these unhealthy environments, they were having to give them lots of antibiotics in order to just keep them alive just long enough for them to kill them.
Right.
And I'm an animal lover. In fact, today I'm a certified licensed wildlife rehabilitator, but I've always loved animals. And I read this article and I looked at these graphic pictures of the treatment of these animals. And I just looked at my husband and I said, I cannot participate in this anymore. This, when you become aware of something, you can't not know it. And I decided I was going to embark on a vegetarian diet. I was going to raise my children that way. And I just dug in, not knowing much about it. Most people I knew's hair stood on end because I had been anemic all my life, and everyone was absolutely positive I was going to stunt my children's growth or harm them, and we weren't going to get enough protein. But over the next year or two, what I found was, much to my surprise and my doctor's surprise as well, is my acute anemia disappeared. My prediabetes went away. My acid reflux really went away just almost overnight. So did the headaches. And then my carpal tunnel syndrome, my wrists just healed up, and I really haven't had a problem with them since.
Nancy, if I could jump in for a quick second here. By the way, thank you for sharing this story. It was great, and we love it. I didn't even want to. There was no logical spot to go because this was a great history and a really important part. I guess what I wanted to ask you was, just from a time perspective, from the aha moment that I can't participate in this anymore, to how quickly did the transformation take place for you physically, all the ailments? What was the time frame that all of those symptoms started to alleviate?
It was amazingly quick as I really started implementing the healthier vegetables, and I did start learning about the organic about that same time and implementing those. It was within a year.
So really quickly, and
it was really quickly.
And from all the, I mean, think about this, and I'm not going to put a calendar year on how long this took, what time of your life this was for you. But the question that I do want to understand is, there's one thing in changing it for yourself, and then to make it what has really been your life's passion to help others. Can you talk about, I guess, that's one leap, to make the change for yourself, and then to be able to write as many books and have as many messaging about that you have for as many years as you've been doing it. Talk about, I guess, that move, because changing it for yourself and seeing your physical things is one thing, but then to be able to do what you're doing, which is awesome, and sharing it with the world and making it really your life's passion. Talk about that jump between the two, because that's definitely something that not everybody would do.
Well, it's interesting because over those years, back 30 years ago when I started doing this, I was really the person that looked so odd in my community. I wasn't doing all the fast food and the same old things. And I was actually condemned for this, saying I was a bad mother because I was, depriving my children of a natural childhood of eating at McDonald's or, some of these other places, or different types of food I was using. But what happened was, when my kids, and my pediatrician ended up telling me I had the healthiest children he'd ever seen. And I wasn't the food police, and I allowed my children to make their own choices outside of, what I was preparing for them. But as they got into college, they were still doing a lot of the things that they had been raised to do and the way they ate. And a lot of their friends were trying to eat like they were, because when they got into college, a lot of them had gained a lot of weight, or were getting sick, or were getting, caught on the caffeine so that they could study. And my kids were calling me all the time saying, my friend wanted to know this, or I'm getting ready to, they'd be moving into an apartment. Mom, how do I stock my refrigerator? What do I put in my pantry? What kind of cookware do I buy? What do I get for my shampoo and my non-toxic cleaning things? Because, a lot of this is all encompassing. It's, body, mind, spirit. It's your home. It's what you put on your body as well as in your body. And so I started taking notes and I started writing all this down. And I had more and more people coming to me and asking me about this and that. And my doctor was sending me clients all the time because she didn't know how to counsel them in nutrition, and she would refer her patients to me who needed dietary help. So it just started compounding itself. And as I started doing this and started becoming a speaker, just more in the community, because groups started asking me, how do we do this? How can we implement this? We want to be healthier. And, so many people had cancer and diabetes and different types of illnesses. And one of the things I found is that as people started implementing my directions, they were really transforming their life, and they were finding that their body was able to heal itself. And it really depended on how they implemented it, how they heard my information. And I started getting encouraged to go study more about this and find out why my information worked. Right. Why was this that way? So I studied, became a health counselor at Columbia, and then also plant-based nutrition at Cornell. But I also started taking healthy cooking classes and correlating what I had been doing along the way that had been working and why. And I started putting pieces of the puzzle together so that I had more of a knowledge base that was very concrete. And as I did that, I was encouraged to start writing this down because people wanted this information and I wasn't always available to give it to them. So I was in Greece studying Mediterranean cooking and finding out that the teacher was using very unhealthy ingredients and that I actually knew more than the teacher, and she'd written all these books. And I thought, I need to write a book and I need to incorporate recipes so that people can actually implement this information. Yep. And so I was encouraged while I was there to write about what I knew. And I know about a plant-based diet, basically the vegetarian diet. And so that's where I started. And I started with how to be a healthy vegetarian. And it just started
and it just launched
kind of
there.
Expanding from there. Right.
Hey there! If you're enjoying how Lou is connecting with this guest in this interview, then just imagine how impactful he can be in person. As an international speaker and consultant, Lou Diamond is all about getting organizations to thrive through the power of connecting. To learn more about how you can hire Lou to speak at your company, your conference, or your next event, head on over to loudiamond.net and click the Book Lou button to learn more. He'll truly get everyone to thrive loud. All right, let's get back to the show.
So Nancy, this is an interesting question because I think our listeners would want to know this. There are, and I'm using your terms here, it is literally a jungle as it relates to the amount of food choices you have out there and the amount of information that's out there. One day they're telling you apples are great. One day they're telling you it's bad. One day they're telling you to eat this, not do this. Now, I think what's really good is the world is absolutely making a turn towards understanding the importance of eating organic and healthy food. How can one begin, and what's the right process if somebody wants to start to navigate the best potential diet for themselves with this wealth of information and these wealth of all these different products that are out there?
One of the things that I think is so important for everybody to know is that quality is so important. And over the last, I want to say since World War II, our food quality has plummeted. And a lot of these large corporations and companies have tampered with our food, and they've also lied to us. And so part of what we need to do is, and some of this, you just got to give it to God and trust God to lead you to the right one. But you've got to find organic, non-GMO food that's grown with non-GMO seeds that have not had viruses or unusual proteins cut into them, or had huge amounts of chemical fertilizers and pesticides dumped onto them that destroy the nutrients in the soil, have a super high estrogen effect that throws off your hormones, but also poisons the food and the environment. And so one of the things that I really stress for people to look for is the quality. And, you'll hear people out there saying, well, you can't eat these vegetables. Well, it may not be the vegetable that's bad for you. It may be the type of seed they used. It may be the way they grew it with chemicals or different types of fertilizer. You may be allergic to, you may be having a reaction to the quality of that food or the type of that food as compared to that specific food that would necessarily be really good for you in its organic heirloom type of form.
Right.
So, one of the things I teach people, and it's almost like you have to be your own Sherlock Holmes detective, but cutting through the misinformation that is being thrown at us from so many places, and really high level places as well, it can really become confusing. But I feel like my information helps people maneuver through the grocery store that can have canola oil added to so many things. And you see canola oil, this is just a good example. Canola is a genetically modified seed. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. It is developed from the rapeseed, which is one of the most toxic oils on earth. It's used in industrial plants. The canola seed was derived from that. You see that in the grocery stores labeled organic, and it is a genetically modified food. We do not have any kind of way to read on our packages if this is a genetically modified food or not, because our government has denied us that right. Our FDA has, not approved having genetic labeling. The reason they've done this is because people want labeling so that they can avoid those foods. And they know that,
right.
Therefore their foods won't be bought. So what we have to do is be our own detective. If you see a seedless food, like a seedless watermelon, those are all genetically modified. And what has happened over the years is we started with an organic association that was really great and a good heart. But over the years, what's happened is people who have been on the board of, say, Monsanto or some of these other corporations that grow these types of foods that are trans fats or have BT toxins built into them or have any kind of tampering with them. For instance, like Archer Daniel, who tampered with wheat and the strains of that to create a variety that is very addictive, but also acts like T1, T2, T3, and T4 in your thyroid and can shut down your thyroid. What they've done is people who have been on those boards have quit those boards and then been hired by the FDA or been put on the board of the Organic Association or gone and worked with the government, and they've approved things like aspartame or different types of things that would not normally be approved. And then after they've approved their things, and sometimes they're even approving things that they personally worked on while they were at Monsanto or at places. And then they will quit their job at the FDA or get off the board at the Organic Association or not be in the government anymore. And then they'll go back and they'll work again for those companies. So it has watered down a lot of the power that has been with the Organic Association and the organic certification, but it is still the best way we have of knowing where your food comes from. Because that's right. Otherwise, you have nothing. So anyway, it is part about just empowering yourself with certain knowledge that you can acquire. And you've got to take baby steps. Otherwise, it's too overwhelming. But, the cleaner the food you eat, the more vegetables you eat, the more whole, real food you eat, the better off you're going to be.
Nancy, I wanted to ask this question because I think it's important here. As it relates to, obviously, look, you are consciously trying to figure out ways to watch what your diet is or utilize the labels most effectively. You have so much information, it's probably almost overload. But I want to know about you personally on this front. Aside from watching what you eat, when you are having an off day, whether it's writing or doing your work or you're speaking, you're communicating, your radio show, the numerous things I listed in the beginning, when you're having an off day and you're having trouble thriving, what practice do you seek or what person do you connect with to help you get back on the thriving track?
Oh, that is such a great question. And and these days, everybody kind of hits those road bumps, right? And I really believe in meditation. And I am a big follower of Heart Math Institute, and I love Joe Dispenza. And he has a placebo meditation, and you can listen to it free on YouTube. And he also has some explanations on there on why it works. But I love doing that meditation, and it just resets my today, my normal, and it shifts my energy. And what it really comes down to, it's all about energy and shifting that energy. And I look for something where I can get outside and get with nature, go for a walk, go horseback riding, do something that, shifts my energy out of being in kind of a funk to being exhilarated or happy or uplifted. And as I've studied the brain, and I became a certified in body mind communication and how your emotions can affect your health and your wellness. And so much of it is our thoughts. And if we're still thinking about the same old stuff that we've been going over in our mind for yesterday or the problems and reliving those, that's a reality in your mind. And until you start thinking new thoughts and getting out of that normality that has put you in that funk or that rut, you can't really pull yourself out of that. So it's really important to shift that energy, get new thoughts in your mind. I love that whenever you learn something new, you're creating new connections in your brain. And as you learn that, it makes them stronger. And you can offset old patterns, like, old patterns of eating foods that are not good for you. If you can stay away from those long enough, you will build new patterns in your brain, in your habits that can become stronger and stronger so that you can offset those. And it really just takes digging in and making that decision to do it. But I think meditation is very powerful. And then I also think getting grounded, getting out in nature is also a really wonderful thing to do that is just as powerful.
That's great, Nancy. Nancy, do us a favor here. Let's do the admin part of the show here. If you could share with the listeners all the places people can find you, the most recent book that you're promoting right now, because I know there's a lot of them, and there's a lot of information on your websites. Give all that. We're going to provide it all in the show notes, but it always comes better when they hear it directly from you.
Oh, you're so kind. Thank you. Well, my website is organic. Figure that one. Organic Healthy Life, LIFE.com. And if you have any questions, you can contact me there. And I have a free newsletter that you can get. I don't spam. I just send it out once a month. And you can get a free grocery store shopping guide with that. And I have 6 books. They're just now also coming out in audio. but they do touch on different aspects of life. So how to be a healthy vegetarian also is how to be a healthy vegan as well. I have a lot of alternative and vegan and raw and gluten-free recipes in there. All my books are half recipes. And get the second edition because it's more updated, and it has just won. It's won over 7 awards, which has been very nice.
She's being modest here, Thrive Out listeners. I'm looking at this list. You know, we ask a lot of our guests, and they send us their bios and their sheets, and her publicist person sent this list of what has to be the longest list of awards. So, I mean, we're actually very fortunate to have you on the show here today because obviously a lot of people think you know what you're talking about. And you've been honored several times on it. So this is great stuff. And I think our listeners will really get a chance to appreciate. So Thrive Loud community, check out these links. All of the organic recommendations of food for those that are diabetic, for those who have certain issues. She's really covered the gamut of this, and not only healthy living on what you eat, but also how you need to be each day, which is awesome. Nancy, I know you were nervous about this question when I presented it earlier on and told you I was going to ask it. Nancy Addison, what is your all-time favorite movie?
Oh, it's funny. My daughter and I love a movie called Cold Comfort Farm. And it's just this funky British movie about a woman in Sussex, England, and how she transforms the lives of the people around her at this gloomy farm of relatives that she goes to stay at. And we just find it absolutely hysterical. And it's Kate Beckinsale, and it's got all kinds of wonderful actors in it, like Rufus Sewell and Ian McClellan. But we just, every time we watch that, and we probably watched it 300 times together, just find a new thing to laugh about. And I think laughter's one of the best medicines you can have in your life.
By the way, I love hearing about movies, Nancy, that no one has ever mentioned on the show before. So that's always a lot of fun. So put that on your movie list, fans. Nancy Addison, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming on Thrive Loud. I literally am looking at what I'm supposed to eat for lunch today, and I'm now going to literally unwind and say, do I have the right package in front of me? Am I eating the right stuff? But I think it's important for all of us to do that. And I think everyone makes a healthy, conscious choice each and every day. You're going to feel better. And I think that's an important part, not just on what you eat, but how you live around it. So Nancy, thank you for everything that you do.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to getting to know you better.
No, absolutely, Nancy. And to all our Thrive Out listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, you lucky person you. As long as you're not a weirdo, make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please, I'm begging you, we're really cool. Also, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Come on, I know you all have those social media platforms and you use them on the daily. If not, find us on the web at thriveloud.com. It was nice thriving with you, and see you next time.